In this series, I'm going to explain why the so-called Mean Girls clique that Micah and Irina formed during Season 4 of Love is Blind is actually an example of two narcissists coming together. I'll point out the numerous red flags these two demonstrate and explain why they're red flags. I'll discuss the different types of narcissist they are, how Irina shows obvious narcissistic behaviours that are quickly picked up on and disliked by the other women on the show, whereas Micah presents the facade of being a good, caring person while simultaneously displaying unkind and manipulative behaviours. I'll also discuss how and why these friendships between multiple narcissists occur. I'll be using H.G. Tudor's system for identifying and analysing narcissists. Love is Blind starts with 15 single men and 15 single women. They each go into a pod where they can hear but not see a member of the opposite sex. They date different people in the pods, and then go on longer dates with people they have a connection with. Micah is on a first date with a man called Kwame.
What's your name?
My name is Micah. What's yours?
Wow, Micah, I love that. My name is Kwame.
Kwame.
Yes.
I love it.
I actually was going to use the name Alex instead. Because I just feel like, I feel like Kwame just like puts me in this very specific area.
I'm really happy that you used your name. I feel like it just kind of speaks to like core values. That's definitely so important. Like, cause for me, I think I feed really hard off like people's energy. I would kind of maybe consider myself like an empath. So it's like important to surround myself with like really genuine people.
Micah referring to herself as an empath is a minor red flag. The reason is that highly empathetic people generally don't go round telling others how empathetic they are, especially within a couple of minutes of meeting them. They'll certainly view themselves as empathetic and take pride in it, but usually they aren't showy about it and may even cringe at the idea of describing themselves as an empath. The people you see shouting that they're empaths from the rooftops will sometimes turn out to actually be mid-range narcissists. That is, unaware narcissists that mistakenly believe they're kind, empathic people. So this could be a slight sign of grandiosity from Micah. However, as I said, it's only a minor red flag. I'm sure that countless genuinely empathetic people do refer to themselves as empaths. This is a good illustration of the principle that we should never put too much weight on any individual red flag, because we all have red flags. We all have quirky behaviours that others might view as strange or even problematic, and on occasion we all make mistakes and all behave badly. So we should only make a determination on somebody once we've built up a large database of their behaviours over time. And when we're looking at a narcissist, we won't just see the odd red flag dotted here and there. It will generally be red flag after red flag after red flag, all painting a consistent picture of what they are. For the first few days of the show, Micah and Irina go on dates with lots of different men. Micah starts to bond with Kwame, who we just saw, and also another man, Paul. Here she is talking about her connection with them.
Paul literally popped out of nowhere. I remember, when we first started talking, I would always be like, oh, great, it's you over there, Paul. Like, kind of giving him a hard time. But now he's the person that I look forward to being on the other side. I just don't know how it happened. But when I'm with Kwame, he validates my feelings. He calms me. I hear his deep voice and it brings me back down to earth. He is so high caliber and such a great person. They're just really different and I literally have no idea what I'm doing.
So Micah has clearly built a strong connection to both men, and she's very much on the fence about which one she likes more. In Love is Blind, the participants spend up to 10 days talking in the pods, and if a couple feels ready at some point before then, they move on to a marriage proposal. I've skipped past a few brief getting to know each other type interactions which aren't very interesting, and we go to day 6 in the pods, where Micah is talking to Kwame.
I want to be transparent with you. I do have a very, very, very strong connection with someone else. She tends to reassure me about how much she wants to be with me. And it's going in every direction that you would want it to go as a person who wants to be cared for.
I appreciate you sharing that with me. I feel like I didn't realize how strong your connection was for the other person. And I'm just wondering how it's escalating so much. If you do feel sure about me, it's just hard to imagine your other connection having such a great trajectory. And that's not to say that I want you to stop talking to people. Just to say it's hard for me to understand, I guess.
Hearing what Kwame said would be difficult for anybody. If you'd been getting close to somebody in a romantic setting and they seemed to be very keen on you, and then suddenly you learned that they'd been building a very strong connection with somebody else, most people would be a bit shocked and upset. For a narcissist, this would actually be much worse, because it would cause something known as narcissistic wounding by damaging their perception of superiority and how special they are. But on the face of it, I think a lot of people would react in a similar way to Micah here, so I don't see any red flags.
If I was to write down the perfect girl for me before I even showed up to this experiment, it would be you. So her ascension has kind of been a conundrum to me. I actually didn't think we would make it until day 3. The one thing that just keeps popping up about her
is it that she validates you more than I do? And reciprocates feelings more vocally?
Yes. Point blank period.
Nothing good is easy. When it comes to something that's this big, I hope that you decide to follow your heart, not the part of your brain that tells you to take what will feel good now.
So Kwame's telling Micah in no uncertain terms that the reason he's connecting with the other woman is that she's showing him she wants to be with him, validating him and reciprocating feelings. Micah's response is really interesting. She doesn't seem to wonder if perhaps she should show more of the validation Kwame wants. Instead, she almost has a knee-jerk reaction that it's the other person who's doing it wrong. She says, "Nothing good is easy when it comes to something this big." It doesn't really make sense why an easy connection wouldn't be good. This is a word salad. It's just Micah putting down the other connection Kwame has in a slightly subtle way. Then Micah says, "I hope that you decide to follow your heart, not the part of your brain that tells you to take what will feel good now." Again, she's putting down Kwame's other connection by painting it as a sort of instant gratification to his brain instead of following his heart, which presumably leads to Micah. So Micah's being very dismissive of this other connection Kwame has, and very judgmental, considering she knows absolutely nothing about it, except that the other woman is showing affection. This shows haughtiness. It's manipulative, and it shows a lack of boundaries in pronouncing judgment on somebody else's relationship and essentially telling them what to do. Finally, the fact that Micah instantly jumped to attacking the other relationship rather than potentially examining what she could change shows a rejection of accountability and a reaction to a perceived threat to control.
So then I'll ask you straightforward then. Do you feel like we have something that would last and that could stand the test?
Because I feel so strongly for you and I can picture our life so well, I can see a future with you. 100%, I can see a future with you.
You have me walking on sunshine. You know?
I definitely know.
My heart is beating faster than I can believe.
There's so much emotion in the balance right now, and it scares the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I know.
But I feel like I'm so sure about you, you know?
Yeah.
I'm so sure about you. So I mean, I'm telling you, I want to propose earlier.
So after Micah disparaging Kwame's other relationship and telling him to follow his heart instead, Kwame asks her for clarity. Does she feel like they have something that would work? Micah's response obviously gives him the affirmation he needs. He says he's walking on sunshine and wants to propose to her. I think Micah's response wasn't actually as definitive as Kwame took it to be, but I can understand why he interpreted it to mean that she's ready to be with him. It's what he desperately wanted to hear. She's the person he wants, not the other connection. Plus, unlike us, he can't see Micah's body language. If you close your eyes and listen to Micah saying, "Because I feel so strongly for you and I can picture our life so well, I can see a future with you. 100% I can see a future with you." You could easily imagine her saying this in a very earnest and heartfelt manner, instead of the reality.
I want to propose earlier. Are you okay?
My jaw dropped to the ground. Oh my God. Obviously I love to hear that, and it makes me feel so good. I want to know why you feel like that.
I've just been smitten for a really long time. I say really long, it's fucking 6 days. Wow.
Feels like a long time.
Yeah. Everything that you want and everything that you are embodying, those things are what I always envisioned. I find myself just waiting all day just to talk to you.
I think the reason why I've been holding back is because the other person that I'm talking to has been a slow burn, and it's not even on our level at all. I mean, it's not comparable. And my fear would be later on, there's still what ifs because I didn't uncover every stone. And you don't deserve to not have your person know without a shadow of a doubt. Because I think that you're just a really incredible person and you deserve everything.
Yeah, this is really hard. It is not fair to you to tell you to cut any connection. Who am I to do that? If I'm doing that now, in the preliminary stages of our relationship, who am I gonna be telling you to cut out of your life at any point, you know?
That's such a great point, actually. I want this to stay between us, but
yeah.
I really am falling for you. And I haven't said that to anyone else.
Yeah.
So you better not go falling for anyone else. I'll beat your ass.
Micah is giving Kwame the impression that he's by far and away her number one choice. She dismisses her connection with the other man, who we know is Paul, as being a slow burn, and says that it isn't on their level at all, or comparable. She also says she's really falling for Kwame and hasn't said that to anyone else. Her connection with Paul is framed as her just wanting to uncover every stone so there are no what-ifs. But we know in reality that Micah is very much on the fence between Kwame and Paul. She does have a deep connection with Paul and says he's the person that she looks forward to being on the other side of the pod. So she isn't being honest with Kwame. She's not tempering his expectations and letting him know the real situation, that he's one of two people she's seriously interested in. She's leading him to believe that he's way out in front and she's just talking to the other man as if to dot the I's and cross the T's. In other words, she's stringing Kwame along by telling him what he wants to hear. This is manipulative and shows a lack of accountability for her actions, a sense of entitlement, and a lack of empathy. Notice that Micah is actually trying to frame her continuing to talk to Paul as something she's doing for Kwame's benefit, by saying he deserves to have somebody who doesn't have a shadow of a doubt because he's a really incredible person and deserves everything. She's manipulating him, using the promised gain of her being more sure about him, plus fake empathy for him, and flattery. A manipulation like this requires a level of social intelligence that some narcissists would not be capable of. But it's quite typical for a mid-range narcissist to project this facade of, "Oh, I'm such a nice, empathetic person just thinking of you here," while actually displaying a lack of empathy in their underlying actions. It's interesting that Micah tells Kwame he better not go falling for anyone else, after earlier disparaging his other connection, while she herself still wants to actively pursue another connection. She wants it both ways. Kwame focused on her, while she's free to talk to another man. Hypocrisy and sense of entitlement. And finally, when she says, "I want this to stay between us, but I really am falling for you," presumably she doesn't want word getting round to Paul that she's told Kwame this. Of course, this is an attempt to avoid taking accountability for her actions. And showing this consideration for how others view her, again indicates a more mid-range behaviour pattern.
What color is your reveal dress?
You can't know that. It has to be a surprise. It will surprise you, I think.
I'm super excited.
So Kwame has clearly been left with the impression that them being together is almost a done deal, and they're talking about the colour of the dress Micah will wear when they first meet after the proposal. We've just started to scratch the surface of red flags for Micah. As I said earlier, you will see red flag after red flag after red flag for both Micah and Irina in this series. This wraps up part 1 of the analysis. Please subscribe to my channel for future parts in this series.